Hello and welcome, I'm your storyteller. I know many of you press play on these videos to help you fall asleep, and that's exactly what this space is for: peace, comfort, and calm. Before you drift off, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It helps this quiet corner of the internet reach more people who need rest. And one more thing before we begin, let me know in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? Now, take a deep breath, settle in, and let the story unfold. Story 1. They warned me not to go out after dark. Now I understand why. Growing up, I always heard the same warning: don't go out late, it's not safe, especially if you're a girl. I heard it from my parents, aunties, even older girls in the neighbourhood, and they weren't joking. They said it like they knew something. They'd say, being outside too late is already bad, but being a girl, it makes it worse. They never really explained what worse meant. Sometimes it sounded like crime, other times something else. But I listened. I stayed in. I wasn't trying to find out what they meant. Then I left home for university. Everything felt different. Here, people went out late all the time, like it was normal. Girls, guys, they'd go clubbing, partying, walking the streets at midnight like it was nothing. Nothing bad seemed to happen. I started to think maybe all those warnings were just fear talking, old habits from people who grew up in different times. So when my friends invited me to celebrate after exams a night out, just to relax, I said yes. That night still haunts me. There were 5 of us: me, Rena, Amina, Joe, and Faye. We didn't even go far, just a lounge near campus. We danced a little, ate, took pictures, laughed. It was the first time in weeks we felt light. We left around 2 a.m. It was late. We knew. But we weren't drunk or careless, just tired and ready to go back. That's when we noticed them. At first it didn't seem like anything. Just 3 guys walking behind us. The street was mostly empty, so we could hear everything except we didn't hear them. No footsteps, no voices, just presence. Rena glanced back and slowed her steps. "Guys," she said quietly, "don't panic." "But I think those guys are following us." We brushed it off. They're probably just going our way. But when we turned right, so did they. We crossed the street. They crossed too. Now we were panicking, even if no one said it out loud. We walked faster, then started to jog. We turned down a shortcut alley to lose them. That's when we saw 2 more men at the other end. They weren't moving, just standing. One of them had his head tilted back like he was sniffing the air. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just guys being creepy. This was something else. We turned to run back, and the original 3 were already at the entrance of the alley, still silent, still watching. Then one of them raised his hand. He had something long and shiny. It wasn't a knife. It looked like a saw. I've never screamed that loud in my life. We all did. Screaming, begging, calling for help. And then, out of nowhere, "Hey, what's going on there?" A flashlight. A voice. A man in a police uniform walked up as we ran to him, shaking, sobbing, explaining. But when we turned to point at the men, they were gone. Not walking away, not hiding, just gone. The officer didn't seem to believe us, said we probably imagined it, or that maybe someone was trying to mess with us, but he gave us a ride back to campus. He told us again, this is why it's not safe to be out late. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. When I got back to my hostel, Rena stayed over in my room because we were too scared to sleep alone. We locked the door, blocked it with a chair. I closed my curtain, but not fully, just enough to peek out, and I swear on everything. They were there, 3 figures, right across the street, standing still, watching, not moving, not saying anything, just watching. I called Rena over. She saw them too. We shut the curtain, turned on the lights, and sat up till morning. The next day we all met up and talked. Every single one of us saw them that night, from our different rooms, different buildings. They were outside, watching. We made a silent agreement after that. No more going out late, no matter what. Even now, if it's getting dark and I'm walking home, I feel it. That prickly feeling in the back of my neck, like I'm being followed, like I'm being watched. I should have listened. They were right. Story 2. He belongs to us. When I was a teenager, I lived in a small desert town. A tourist town, really. Think cowboy historic, with lots of old buildings and dust. I was able to make some extra cash babysitting on the weekends, because there wasn't much else to do in the town anyways. One night I was babysitting for a couple that had an infant. I met them at Target, they seemed like a nice couple, and knew of another family I sat for. They lived way out of town. So far out that street names are gone and you use mile markers as your signs to know where you are. It was an easy gig. Baby was staying asleep, just had to feed him when he woke up. Parents would be back around midnight. I cozied up on the couch with Netflix and settled in for a chill night when the doorbell rang. Thinking it was one of the parents who forgot something, I jumped up and opened the door immediately. To nothing, it seemed. I shrugged and started to close the door when I heard a soft voice. "Miss?" I stopped the door and looked around the corner to see a girl standing on the steps to the porch. She was about my age, had long hair and a hoodie pulled up, but her eyes, they were so light blue they were almost glowing in the dark. "Do you live at this house?" she had asked me. "Oh," I started. "No, I'm just visiting." I was careful not to say too much because although the girl seemed harmless, she was still a stranger. "Is Mrs. Rosino home? I need to talk to her," she asked. She seemed nervous, twiddling her thumbs, looking behind me into the house. "You know what? She just stepped out to go to the store. I can tell her you stopped by if you tell me your name," I said, slightly backing up, ready to close the door. She stepped towards me, eyes darting around, and she put her hand over the zipper on her hoodie. She leaned forward and whispered, "Please tell me where she is. I don't want to hurt you." My heart dropped. She removed her hand from the zipper and really looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I'm sorry. She really isn't here right now," I said with a tight expression. Her face turned desperate, but at that point I had been thoroughly creeped out, so I closed the door and locked it. I called the Rosinos to let them know. Once I described the girl, they grew frantic. They told me they were calling the police and to stay with the baby. I still remember Mrs. Rosino screaming into the phone, "Don't leave my baby!" over and over. I ran down the hall to the nursery, threw open the door and ran to the crib. The baby was sound asleep still. I scooped him up gently and sat in the rocker with him in one arm, my phone in the other. "Help will be here soon," I had whispered, more to comfort myself than anything. Then the banging started. I could hear the front door shake from the force used to knock on the wood. Then the sound moved. Why aren't there any sirens? The police station wasn't far from this area at all, right before you turned on the mile marker. They should be here by now. I heard the banging travel along the house, one big knock at a time. Bang! They were by the living room. Bang! They were by the kitchen. Bang! They were by the hallway. I got out my phone and texted 911 help to my mum. She knew where I was babysitting tonight. She responded immediately with question marks, then tried calling. I silenced the call. I couldn't risk answering and the intruders hearing me. My mum would make sure the police got her. I knew it. Slowly moving closer and closer to where I hid in the nursery, the window was locked tightly with the blinds closed. But glass is breakable. Bang! They were at the wall next to the window. I backed away from the window to the corner of the room when I heard the front door creak open. The baby boy still asleep in my arms. I started to cry. I whimpered, like a wounded puppy. I couldn't fight someone off while holding him, but I wasn't going to put him down. Footsteps descended the hallway. I heard muffled voices while doors were being opened and closed. "Where is the nursery?" a gruff voice asked. I don't know, Daddy. I couldn't see the floor plan online." The same small voice of the girl from earlier answered, "If that little girl wants to help them, that's fine. But he belongs to us. No one can keep him from us now." "Daddy, please. Maybe she will understand." The voices stopped right outside the door. The baby started to stir. I shushed him quietly and rocked him back and forth. Then I heard the sirens. I shot a thank you up to whoever was watching over me, grateful that this nightmare would soon be over. But the weirdest thing happened. The footsteps didn't retreat. No one ran, no one left, no one moved. I was sure they were going to come in and finish me off right before the police showed up, and then steal the baby into the night. But that didn't happen either. Loud footsteps came walking through the house. A boisterous voice called out towards the hallway. "Excuse me, sir, are you a resident here? We got a call that a little girl was in trouble. Is she her?" Muffled voices sounded and trailed off, walking outside. I was waiting to hear anything. Yelling, screaming, more sirens. But it was silent. After what seemed like hours, heavy footsteps walked directly down the hallway toward me, and the door opened. A uniformed officer looked stern and took a look at me cowered in the corner with the Rosino baby. "Hey, sweetie, are you all right?" he asked, bending down to meet me at eye level. "Yes. Those people were trying to take the baby. They were going to kill me. Why did it take you so long to get here?" I cried out. Finally letting the tears fall as the adrenaline hit was coming down. The officer looked confused. "We came out the second the call came in. We made it here in about 5 minutes. Did you try to call in sooner?" He pulled his radio to his face, asking his other officer if any other calls were attempted. "Well, no, but the Rosinos called you at least 30 minutes ago. I called them first and they said they were calling you right away and to hide with the baby, so..." I looked down at baby Rosino. He had finally fully woken up and started to quietly cry. The officer just stared at me, a mix of sympathy and fear in his eyes. Where are his parents? They surely should be here by now. He's probably a little scared and needs his mom. "Did you arrest those psychos?" I patted his back and bounced him in my lap to help comfort him. The officer smiled sadly at me and spoke into his radio. "You can send them in." After a few moments, the nursery door opened and the teenage girl stepped through, with a large man behind her. Oh! The girl started to sob, putting her hands up to cover her face. The older man placed his hand on her shoulder and looked at me sadly. The policeman stood and reached for the baby. "No!" I shouted. "What are you doing? Are you working with them?" "This is the Rosino's son." The girl finally spoke. "No, he isn't. He's mine.